We have fresh reporting tonight surrounding Baltimore's Key Bridge catastrophe and how thousands of our nation's bridges could be in jeopardy. Federal investigators pinpointed the Key Bridge's fatal flaw almost immediately. It didn't have fail-safes to keep it standing if a single structural support failed. 7 News I-Team investigative reporter Mitch Blocker wanted to know how many bridges have this flaw. He found thousands across the country. He's live right now tonight in Annapolis near Maryland's Bay Bridge. Mitch?
John, we're only about 20 miles up the Chesapeake Bay to Baltimore in the Key Bridge, or what's left of the Key Bridge. Here at the Bay Bridge, this is the second bridge that a massive cargo ship like the Dali would have to pass under as it goes out to sea. Now, the Bay Bridge and the Key Bridge, both built in similar eras to similar standards, but those standards, they have not kept up to the massive ships and how the risk that they pose as they go under these bridges on their way out to sea. It takes just 10 seconds and the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapses. One of the world's largest cargo ships, the Dali, starts the domino effect. It crashes into only one support column, and the entire 1.5 mile long bridge crashes down. Federal engineers knew why immediately.
The bridge is fracture critical. It's a fracture critical bridge.
Fracture critical is an engineer's way of saying if one part of a bridge fails, the entire bridge may fall.
That would likely cause a portion of or the entire bridge to collapse. There's no redundancy.
There are more than 17,000 fracture critical bridges in the U.S., all built without any structural redundancy. We dug through national bridge inventory records to find them all. And Baltimore's Key Bridge isn't the only one you may recognize. Also on the list is the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. This stretch of I-95, it connects Maryland with Virginia. The Roosevelt Bridge is also a fracture-critical bridge, but the Federal Highway Administration says that those wooden pier guards, that they are adequate to protect it. Now, there are thousands of fracture-critical bridges all over the country, but engineers say that only hundreds of them actually need pier protection. One of the most significant, it is right here over the Chesapeake Bay. In 2014, state engineers listed the concrete piers holding up Maryland's Bay Bridge in fair and satisfactory condition. As of 2023, the Federal Highway Administration listed its pier protection system as adequate. We asked bridge engineer Andy Harriman to walk us through what it takes to protect a fracture-critical bridge. How do you know if a bridge has adequate protection?
It's interesting, when they design vessel protection for a bridge, they take into account a number of things, and one of them is probability. And that can be the size of the vessels, the frequency of the vessels, the width of the channel. When you're designing new bridges, you may make the piers robust enough that they can take a hit.
The Bay Bridge is now the only fracture-critical bridge still standing over one of the world's busiest shipping channels. The 150-mile-long Chesapeake Bay is the main route to get to Baltimore's port. Again, federal and state inspectors say the Bay Bridge's piers are adequately protected. They said the same thing about Baltimore's Key Bridge. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, do you think that bridge had adequate pier protection?
I don't know. That bridge was designed many, many years ago, and it was probably designed to a different standard. If it was designed today, it probably would have had much more robust protection of the bridge.
And one of our key findings is that the bridge standards, while they have pretty much stayed the same, we've had bigger and larger and heavier ships passing under these bridges. The pier protection systems, they have stayed the same. The NTSB is recommending that all states check out their bridges and their pier protection systems, especially if they're over an active waterway with cargo ships going under them. Here in Maryland, transportation officials tell us that they started doing that with the Bay Bridge the week that the Key Bridge collapsed.